Hey there. Good day to you. This is Pastor Xavier, God's Grace and Covenant. How y'all doing today? I want to talk to y'all about today's study is going to be on why the Messiah called the scribes, lawyers of the Pharisees and the Sadducees serpents and children of hell. You know, he talked about them uh, very roughly, and he always was very truthful about how he felt about things and people, certain people, administrations, and whatnot. And his attitude towards the uh, ruling body of the Sanhedrin was not good. It was not a good thing at all. And it's probably because most of them were foreigners. They were not actual Hebrews. They were not actual children of Israel. They were today's Israelis. They were not Israelites of the original stock. And as you know, I've told you that the original stock of them were what we will refer to as the children of the slaves that look like me and you, and not that group that you see running things today. Uh, and for more detail on that, all you have to do is look at the second Revelation chapter 2, Revelation chapter 3, and they're described as a synagogue of Satan. And it's going to hit on a couple of things today uh, as to the differences. And, you know, you need to know what exactly are the differences between Sadducees, Pharisees, the scribes and the lawyers. What did they do? You know, a lot of you read these scriptures, you have no idea really. You know, you hear of a famous Pharisee, which would be uh, the Apostle Paul, but what was their job? Now it's funny because when you look in the Old Testament, there's no descriptions of a group called Pharisees or a group called Sadducees, nor were there any lawyers, or, you know, there were scribes, but there were not any lawyers. All you had in the Old Testament was the children of Aaron and the Levites, the children of either the children of Aaron or the children of Levi. And and then you had Korhites that had their position for a while until they screwed things up. But these people were the ministers. So you either had the high priest, which was of the children of Aaron, or you had the all the Levites, the children of Levi, did the ministry of the church. They handled all of the administrative duties, all of the, you know, setting up the temple and all of that. Because remember, the temple originally was a tabernacle, so it was mobile. And every time they went somewhere, they had the Levites would carry it. Then they would set it up when they got into wherever they were going. No different than today's carnival coming to town has is mobile. It's all on the trucks. Just think of it as the Levites would be those truck drivers. Then when they get to the spot that they're going to, they would be the ones to set it all up, you know. But then the high priest would come in and he would be the one to go inside the temple and conduct all of the services and whatnot. So that's how that was back in the day. And the Levites were considered ministers. So you had the high priest and the ministers. During the time of David, King David, you even had the uh, choir people, the stewards, the people that would usher people in and whatnot. You had all of that. But there were no Pharisees and Sadducees and lawyers. There were always a scribe, because the scribe was the one that literally goes by the definition. They would scribe. They would be the writers. They are the ones that are going to write the book over and over. In today's society, what they are the copy machine. that would, reprint everything for you. Back then, there was no copy machine, so the scribes would rewrite something. You'd hire a scribe, and they would write stuff for you. And if you were wealthy, you would have your own scribe that would just stay with you. In today's time, what happens with a lot of wealthy people is they have a camera person or a or a biographer that will follow them around and write their story and stuff like that, and take pictures of them. All the presidents have that. They have the presidential photographer and the biographer that'll write the books on them and follow them around and ask them questions and whatnot, so they could have a documentary type deal. So that's what you would do with that. Now, let's look at a description of, like, more of a definition. What is a Pharisee? And what did they look like? The Pharisees, you can see them today, actually, a Pharisee. Today's Jews, the Jewish people, the European white people that are calling themselves Jews today over there in Israel, and they're here too. They're all over the place. You'll see them wearing the blue and white shawls and scarves that hang down over them, and you'll see them in their temples. They will cover their head with the shawl type deal. It's amazing their differences. What that you can see them today. They don't look. They all wear similar colors. It's not a very elegant look. It's almost like you would see I'm trying to think of a description. The gypsies. The gypsies wear a lot of clothing, a whole lot of stuff. The Pharisees today, they have a lot of clothes on, and then they cover it with the shawl scarf thing that they put on their head, and then it has the scarf that hangs down on both sides. You've seen them today. Also, now the Sadducees, on the other hand, they look completely different. They're different. I don't know if in modern time you see them, except the design of clothing that they wear is very elegant. And if I had to give a description of what some of them look like, they look like your Catholic priest that's a bishop or something like that in their finest robe. Now, think of in our churches today, you have a lot of bishops and pastors that have these beautiful ornate robes that are usually silk and very pretty. And when they turn such a way, they shine in the light. And they cost a lot of money. Those were that kind of garment was what the Sadducees would wear. They almost looked like royalty. And the reason they almost looked like royalty was because they were rich. All of the Sadducees were of the high upper class. So when it comes to classes, the Pharisees were common folk, but they were middle class and upper middle class. So some of them were promoted from lower class to middle class to upper middle class. And they had on their side the masses of people that were the common folk, the blue collar workers. Whereas the Sadducees, on the other hand, they had a small minority in numbers because they were of the elites, the rich, the mega rich, and the elites. And it's funny because when you look at them, the Sadducees, where they were in command, was at the temple. Now remember, in Jerusalem, in Israel, there was only one temple. So that situation that happened where the Messiah took out the whip and was whipping people and knocking over the tables and all of that and messed up their money. He was messing up the money of the Sadducees. The Sadducees was upset with him about that. That had nothing to do with the Pharisees. That was the Sadducees' domain at that time because they ran the temple. The Pharisees, on the other hand, they ran synagogues, little churches around town. I want you to think about in today, like here in Jacksonville, there's a bunch of churches out here. They ran all of those individual churches. The Sadducees ran the one temple. So, and only the elites pretty much went over there to do stuff. But of course, people came and brought their sacrifice and all that kind of thing. And you had limited groups coming to specific places. The rich people came to the temple. The average common poor person or the common person would go to their local synagogue or church. Now, another thing is their beliefs. The Pharisees believed in the resurrection. Remember, Paul was originally a Pharisee. They believed in the resurrection. The Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection at all. So there's a group that is running the temple that did not believe that the people would be resurrected and come back to life. So there was no way that they would have anything to do with a Messiah that is killed, buried, and resurrected 3 days later and comes back and's running around town having a part two. They just were not going to go with that. And that's one of the reasons why when the Messiah resurrected Lazarus, Mary and Martha's brother, they were done with that because that was completely going against their thought process. Now, what are you going to tell people when they come to the temple next week and they know the story that, hey, Lazarus is back? This guy is literally raising people from the dead. The little girl that was raised from the dead. The man let's only stick with the ones that were raised from the dead. The little girl was raised from the dead. And I think there was a little boy that was raised from the dead, and they were taking him to bury him in the cemetery. They were taking his coffin with him in it to bury him. And the Messiah touched the funeral service, the coffin, and the boy come back to life and raised up out of it. I mean, unbelievable. Now, at that time, we say coffin today, but at that time, they didn't have coffins. They had a bier. I think it's B-I-E-R. And they were carrying him on the stretcher that an ambulance used to put you on the stretcher. And they were taking him to bury him. But when the Messiah touched the boy and spoke to him and told him to get up, he got up. The Sadducees had to, as far as they were concerned, we have got to get rid of this guy. This guy, at first they weren't even thinking about him that much. There had always been people calling themselves messiahs, but this was the Messiah. This one was obviously sent from God because he was doing things that nobody else could do. They tried to besmirch him and say that, he's raising the dead or he's putting out demons by the prince of demons and stuff like that. And they couldn't understand how he could bring sight to the blind. He's making the people that can't hear, he's making them hear. He's healing the people of the palsy. I mean, he's doing things that no one else could do. They had to get rid of this guy. And once he was doing the raising of the dead, and it was shown to them that technically, scientifically, the dead can be brought back, that completely messed up their whole deal. So they felt like they had to get rid of him. Then the Sadducees and the Pharisees joined forces against him. Now, another thing that the Sadducees did was they only focused on the first 5 books of the Torah. They really didn't focus on much else. Now, the Pharisees, on the other hand, they focused on all of the books of the Old Testament. Now, they had a particular fondness, of course, for the first 5 books, but they went with all of the books. But here's where they ran into contention with the Messiah. They added a whole bunch of, I think, 672 additional laws or something like that to what already was in the scripture. They had an oral tradition that they added things on to the scriptures that were not written in the scriptures, that they gave as much value and foundation to as the written scriptures. So when they added something in, and how did they add it? They added it with their scribes and with their lawyers. Their scribes would write what they would tell them to write. The lawyers would interpret what was written and be real funny and flaky with the interpretation, kind of like today's politicians and today's lawyers. Now, here's the funny thing. Today's politicians and lawyers are today's politicians, most of them are lawyers. We really should do something about that. It seems to me that a lawyer shouldn't be a politician because it just promotes for bad governance, because they're always looking for loopholes. They're always trying to find a way to get around something. And that's exactly what the lawyers were doing in the scriptures. And we are going to read about that, where a lawyer questions the Messiah, and he's questioning him in order to find loopholes, in order to get around stuff. He's not being sincere in anything. So the lawyer situation has always been a situation that has been filled with deceit and trickery. One minute it means one thing, and the next minute it means something else. No different than you go to a courthouse today and you think that the definition of this is this, but then you find out when you get in there, it could be something completely different. Now, in the real world, a definition is a definition and it stands on its own. In a courthouse, and not necessarily the same. That's why you really need a lawyer when you go in, because you're going to need somebody to speak the legalese and catch them up in their foolishness and cite specific case law that will narrow down what exactly the definition that they're looking at or seeking for. And the lawyers turn the scriptures into similar type of situation where in one book it could mean one thing, and in another book something can mean, that same thing can mean something totally different. It became very confusing for the average parishioner to comprehend the scriptures, because the lawyers and the scribes were just, and then you got the Pharisees and the Sadducees interpreting things differently. There was too much differences going on. Today, it's like that too. You have Presbyterians over here. Now, of course, I'm Hebrew, but you have Presbyterians over here doing one thing, Methodists doing something else, Baptists doing something else, Jehovah's Witness doing something else. And it's funny because if I had to give these groups a name, I could give them a name. Like the Pharisees, they're like the Jehovah's Witnesses, because the Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to mix with anybody else. They don't think that they should be hanging around anybody that's not a professed Jehovah Witness. So that, and there's some people in Islam that's like that too, but mostly the Jehovah Witnesses are very funny like that, real funny acting. The Pharisees were like that. So if I had to give them a title, I would say they were the Jehovah Witnesses of their day. They were the original Jehovah Witnesses, but they could care less about Jehovah. They're what you would call church people. People that they don't love God. They just love going to church and having a position in the church. Now, I want y'all to think about that. There are people out there, and I know you've heard this. Oh, you need to go to church. You need to go to church. They'll never say that you need to have a relationship with God. They will say you need to go to church. They will say, I have a strong church background. Oh, I grew up in the church. They will not mention God because they don't know him. And they're not interested in knowing him either. Their whole thing is simply going to church. That's their thing. Church it has become like an idol to a lot of people because they worship simply being a member at the church and having a position at the church. But they have no relationship with the God that instituted the church. It's a fascinating thing. It's a fascinating thing. The Sadducees, I would call them, with their elite status and their great wealth, they are like the Catholics. The Catholics have a lot of money. And when I say the Catholics, I'm talking about the ruling class of the Catholics. I'm not talking about the average lay person that goes to a Catholic church, because the most of them don't even go that much. It's the wealthy ones that go often and keep in tune with government stuff going on and all that kind of thing. The Sadducees were very involved with local government, state government, and in our terms, federal government. They were always involved with government stuff. The Pharisees were not. The Pharisees may have been involved more so in a local government, like today's local mayor, the city council people, the police departments and stuff like that. But the Sadducees, on the other hand, they were more involved with your county officials, your state officials, all of your state boards, and your federal government people. I mean, they were in tune with everybody that was in leadership. Why? Why were they so in tune with them? Like today's Catholic hierarchy. They were in tune with them because the kings at the time would appoint Sadducees to be members of the Sadducees to be the high priest. Now, remember, in the Old Testament, the high priest was chosen by bloodline. God instituted that the children of Aaron would become the high priest. Well, these guys changed that. They had nothing to do with what God's rules were. They were chosen by these rebellious, devilish kings that were appointed at the time by Caesar. Because remember, during the time of the Sadducees and the Pharisees, you've got Israel is ruled by Rome, Greece, stuff like that. And let's not forget the times of the Persians and the Medes and all that kind of thing, and the Babylonians. And when all of that started happening, the going by God's way was put to the side. Now, all of a sudden, you're going by the Babylonian way, by the Medes and the Persians way, by the Greece way, by the Roman way. And they would simply appoint who they wanted, who would be more friendly towards them and their policies. Things became policy, which is what we got today. And those Sadducees were always in tune with that kind of thing. The Pharisees, now remember, the Sadducees were in tune with that because they ran the temple, the one temple, and the high priest was in the temple. Well, the Pharisees, they would come to the temple because they would be part of what is called the Sanhedrin. Now, remember, in the old time, there were 70 chosen people that Moses picked to help him with the work at the temple, in helping him to do the counseling services for the people and the studies and all of that. And then when Moses, when they had a problem that was too hard for them, they would bring it to Moses, and then Moses would make a decision on something. Moses had a group of 70. I don't know if you should call them, I guess on one hand, you can call that group of 70 deacons, I would suppose. They were everybody that worked at the temple were ministers. But in modern time, what would you call that group of 70? I suppose I would call them ministers on the roster, and the more junior ones you could call deacons, maybe. But I think that's how I would refer to them if I had to refer to them in a modern time. The more senior ones, I would call them ministers on the roster. The more junior ones that would help those ministers on the roster, I would call them deacons. These people, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, called themselves the Sanhedrin. So that they didn't have 70, they had more. They had 72, some say 76. They had more. They didn't go by anything that was instituted by God or Moses. They had nothing to do with that. They did their own thing. And that's what you always have to keep in mind when you have a Sadducee and a Pharisee. They are not going by God's rules at all. They look like they are, but they're really not. They have usurped authority. They're not the authority that was appointed by God. They are all usurpers that have stolen and hijacked the stuff. That's how come in Revelation 2 and in Revelation 3, the scriptures say that they call themselves Jews, but are not. They're liars. They're not what they're saying that they're professing to be. They have usurped it. They took it. Identity theft is what they've done. And then they've changed everything. And they're a bunch of church people. They're not people of God. People of God are not only, first of all, the people that are Hebrews and Israelites are that by blood. They were born that. That's first and foremost. Now, can an outsider that's not by blood come in and become one? Well, they can convert, yes, and they can be a convert to it, but the privileges and rights that the blood-born Hebrew Israelite has will always be different than the privileges and rights that the convert has. Now, the convert in the kingdom to come, in the new generation, is going to be great for the convert. And those converts are people that are what we call strangers today, or foreigners, or white people, Asian people, Hispanics, all of that. They'll be able to be amongst us if they convert, but they will not be able to go into that new temple that is coming from the sky, because that's going to have the names of the bloodborne people on it, and only they going to be able to enter in to that. It's going to be you got to read the scriptures to see exactly how things are going to be. There's going to be some changes to the way things are going now. Oh, it's going to be some changes, but the changes are going to be for the better and for the good. There's not going to be any racism, and there's not going to be any uh, forced bad situations and poverty and all. None of that's going to be happening. All of this foolishness with the economy and the warring and all of that, all that's going to be done. But the tables are going to be reversed. Our people, the Hebrew Israelites, are going to be back in command under the Messiah. He's going to be coming back and stay here and make sure that we don't get out of pocket with anything. So we're not going to be, that great race war stuff that people be talking about, the helter skelter and all of that. That's not happening in the new kingdom. None of that foolishness is happening in the new kingdom. There will be none of that kind of nonsense going on. The Messiah is going to be here to see to it that everything is going to be on the up and up. Everything's going to be fair. Everything's going to be equitable. It's going to be truly God's kingdom on earth. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That is actually going to happen one day. That is actually going to happen. You really should quit calling that the Lord's Prayer. It's the prophecy for the future is what it is. That whole, what he said is actually going to happen. His prayer is actually in John 20, I think it is, where he's actually praying to the Father. And that is the most beautiful prayer. And I guess a lot of people don't want to talk about that prayer because he's quite clear in it that he doesn't pray for everybody. Did y'all know that? The Messiah don't pray for everybody. He only prays for those that are given to him by the Father. And you must understand, he doesn't go and get anybody. He deals with who is given to him. And the one that gives him stuff is God himself. The Father gives stuff to the Son, and then the Son maintains what he's given. He don't go get nobody that he is not ordered to go get. Remember, everything is done before the foundation of the world even came into existence. God made this plan a long time ago. It's kind of like you're sitting around and you say to yourself before you build a house, I'm going to build me a house one day. And then you start drawing up the plans. And then finally, 50 years later, you actually bring the plans into fruition. So before you even did it, you thought about exactly how it's going to get laid out, where it's going to be, all that kind of thing. I remember I worked with a guy back when I was in North Chicago. It was an engineer, the city engineer, real nice guy. I think his name was Bruce Burris or something like that. And Bruce was a good guy. And he was a white dude, real nice guy, real intelligent with that engineering and everything. Very helpful, very nice to work with. Bruce had showed me, we had became kind of close, and he showed me when he retired what he wanted to do for him and his wife. He wanted to build this log cabin. I said, a log cabin? And when I'm thinking a log cabin, I'm thinking some little small log cabin. He said, no. It's going to be a big old house, but it's going to be all logs. And he said, let me show you. I've been working on it for years. And so he showed me his drawings, and it was so nice. And he finally retired, and he was ready to actually go do it. And I'm pretty sure Bruce built his log cabin in the woods, and it's beautiful. So God did the same thing. Before the foundation of the world, he just talked about what he was going to do with you, and you, and you, and who was going to be straight and who was not going to be straight. Some people was going to be designated for punishment. Other people were going to be saved. And he made that decision before he even brought you into existence. I mean, I'm sitting here talking about things of God that don't buy me any great value with people. I'm shunned a lot because I don't celebrate the holidays that the people have. I celebrate the holy days that God has. I don't eat all of the food that the people do, where they all love bacon and all that kind of stuff, the baconator and extra bacon and bacon in the pizza, bacon juice, and just all kind of pork stuff. And I don't do that. So I'm sort of shunned when it comes, oh, you don't eat pork. Oh, you don't do this and you don't do that and you don't drink and you don't this and that, and people look at me as sort of a spoil sport. But I just go along with what God has designated me to go along with. And I don't find it hard or difficult to do. And it has helped my health big time. And I understand after I got over God's ways, because at first I thought he was being a spoil sport. Why can't I eat this? Why can't I eat that? It's not like you can't go eat pork. You can go eat some. You just can't turn it into your everyday thing. Because remember, there was, if you ate it, you would have to leave the camp for 7 days and not come back. So you'd have to be on a quarantine because you're bringing in a toxic substance that could get other people sick. And today we have understanding about these cross contamination and stuff like that. God was not being a spoil sport. He was making sure that we didn't have cross contamination and bad things that will cause issue. And, look up the health and safety facts of why he did things. And you'll see that today's doctors tell you the same thing. Now, you listen to the doctor without a problem, but you don't listen to God, who created the doctor and created everything else. You call him a spoil sport, like I did. But I've learned better since. But let me stick to this. So the Sadducees, they were the high priests that ran the temple. They were appointed to be the high priests, but they were appointed by the leaders of government, the kings and all of that, and emperors. And the Pharisees, on the other hand, they ran the small individual temples that were located all around town. But they would join together to have their big meeting. Like me, I go to the union meeting. So they would have their big meeting, and that would be called the Sanhedrin. And they would hold that at the temple and at various places around town. And they would get together and plot and scheme to do things. And they got together and plotted and schemed to hang the Messiah and kill him and get rid of him. Now we're going to get into, now that we have some background on that, now we're going to get into the actual study. Let's go to Matthew chapter 5, verse 20. Now, what are we doing here? Your righteousness. When I first read this years ago, I always wondered, wait a minute, this is a heavy verse to deal with. Your righteousness must exceed that of the scribes and Pharisees if you want to make it into the kingdom. I was like, wait a minute. If the scribes and Pharisees are the hierarchy and I have to exceed them, how could I possibly be better than the hierarchy and do things better than them? But then once I found out what the Pharisees and scribes and Sadducees do and the lawyers do, and found out that they're just fake church people and that they are appointed to their positions and that they don't care anything about what God actually set in motion. They care nothing about the stuff that the prophets set in motion, like Moses. They go against all of that and do their own thing. They have a fake exterior of looking good. They're those sepulchers, the grave sites that look pretty on the outside, but inside is dead men's bones. Most graveyards are beautifully manicured. And you walk around on them. People even have picnics at the graveyards, except for, of course, the old ones. The old graveyards look scary as heck. They look like the backdrop to a horror movie. But the new graveyards are pristine and beautiful and have benches and little ponds and all kind of stuff over there. Absolutely beautiful to walk through. Uh, but inside, when you dig down, are dead men's bones. And that's how the Messiah describes these guys. So once I realized that, wait a minute, the scribes and Pharisees are fake imposters. They're ministers of Satan dressed as if they're ministers of light, but they're not. They're bad people. That's how come you can be better than them, because they're lying the majority of the time. They're masquerading, and we're going to see that. Let's look at this. Chapter 5, Matthew chapter 5, verse 20. For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. You have heard it said of old time, thou shalt not kill, whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. Wait, I don't want to go there. Let me go back up. I'm gonna show you why he's saying this about them. Let's start at verse 1, chapter 5, verse 1 in Matthew. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Now, these Sadducees and Pharisees, when they came out, they persecuted anybody that did do anything for his sake. Anybody that did anything good, they had a problem with. Anybody that did anything bad, they might could find some kind of, they could deal with that. Because these are the group that whatever was good, they turned it bad. And whatever was bad, they turned that good. Whatever was sweet, they turned it bitter. And whatever was bitter, they said that was sweet. They were completely contrary. It's kind of today, like the people, and I know my sister is going to be mad at me about this. The people love R. Kelly. And R. Kelly is a wonderful singer. Now, they completely separate his singing from his behavior. His behavior is abysmal. It's terrible. His philandering that he does is outrageous, and it has caught up with him and got him in trouble. But they push the behavior to the side and only deal with the one aspect of him, which is the singing. Well, that's the issue with the Sadducees and the Pharisees. They push the bad behavior to the side and only deal with the fact that they dressed really nice. They do work at the temple. They have all of these long prayers and all of that. They're doing service. You see them, and people look at this display that they have as if it's good. But really, when you look deep down, these are some of the worst people you can find. And they're not peacemakers. They're not pure in heart. They're not merciful at all. They don't hunger after righteousness. They hunger after being able to fool you and confuse you with the scriptures. So you would always have to come to them for help. That's what they do. That's what they do. And that's why you have to exceed them. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is henceforth good for nothing but to be cast out and trodden under the foot of men. And that's what's going to happen to them in the end times. They're going to be cast out, even though they're the ones that's at the temple right now. And you would assume that they're the ones that you should go to for help, but they're not. And there are a lot of preachers that are and Bible teachers or scripture teachers that are not teaching the scriptures right. And all they want is money, fame, fortune. They're not interested in helping you to do the right thing to save your soul. I'm telling you that you need to leave the seafood alone. You need to quit with the crab and the shrimp and the pork and all of that, and leave these holidays alone. These holidays are not God's holy days. Let it go. Let it go. That doesn't buy me a lot of favor with people, but being that I'm persecuted for his sake because I do what he say, I'm straight. It's counted to me for righteousness that I'm making an attempt, because Lord knows I'm not the greatest at it. I'm not the greatest, but I am making an attempt. Are you? Are you attempting to do what the scriptures say? Are you attempting to do what the Messiah tells you to do? Are you attempting to go by God's word? Or are you just going by traditions of men like the Sadducees and the Pharisees? Are you just like the Jehovah Witness version, the Pharisees, and want to separate yourself from people because they say that, well, we don't want to be around them because they're not one of us? And we're going to see Messiah's going to talk about it. Matter of fact, let's go to Matthew 23 next and see what he says, because he gives a description of what they do. So let's read Matthew chapter 23. Then spake Jesus unto the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So they are the leaders at the church, at the temple. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe and do, but do not after their works, for they say and do not. They are church people. They actually don't do anything that God tells them to do. They just go to the church and play church. That's what they do. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. They're gonna delegate all the work out, but they're not gonna do anything. They're not gonna join in and help nothing. Their hands is too holy, too delicate to touch anything as far as they concerned. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries. Now, the phylactery is the robes I'm talking about. And enlarge the borders of their garments. Oh, they take time. They go to you done seen them. Because some of y'all got pastors and bishops right now that then went and got a $2,000 robe, $3,000 robe made out of silk and got the finest Egyptian silk they could find. And the thread count is through the roof, and you touch it, and it's so delicate and plush and shine when it turns a certain way. And, all of this effort that they put into putting up a front, and they're just lying, but they look good while they're doing it. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's like a politician gets the nicest Brooks Brothers suit, and the lawyer get the nicest Brooks Brothers suit and come to court and just tell lies. The politician, the same thing. He's gonna rob you blind, but they're gonna look nice while they doing it. I went to get my hair cut the other night. Now me and the barber were talking, and I said, it's something else how the people rob you today. Remember back in the day when someone would rob you, they'd be, give up the money, blah, 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 blah. It would be a big spectacle. Now they don't do that. Now they don't even pull the gun out. They walk up on you, get up close. whisper in your ear, hey man, give it up. Don't look funny. Don't look around. Don't make no sudden moves. You know what this is. Give it up, or else I'm gonna pull it out and you're gonna get got right here. Now, just do it real smooth, like we don't need nobody to see nothing. We don't need to make no big scene out here. And you think two guys are just standing over there talking. and it's an armed robbery going on. That's what happens. And these Sadducees and these Pharisees and these scribes and lawyers, that's what they do. They smooth with their devilment. It's not the big spectacle that you expect out in the street. It's real smooth with it, but they thieves nonetheless. And love the uppermost rooms at the feast and the chief seats in the synagogue. Yeah, you go sit in one of their chairs and watch them ushers get you up out of there. You go to the wrong way and watch what happened when they tell you, no, this is for so and so only. This is reserved and all this kind of stuff. And love the and greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. And that's the other difference between scribes and Pharisees. Sadducees and Pharisees. The Pharisees are the ones that are called rabbi. The Sadducees are not. Sadducees don't have rabbis. Sadducees has priests. That's how come I told you the Sadducees are more like the Catholics. Those are the ones that are called priest and father and all that stuff, just like the modern day Catholic. The Pharisees, on the other hand, those are your modern day rabbis. Yep. So now you have an even more descriptive understanding of who we're dealing with here. So if you hear somebody called a rabbi, those are Pharisees. Modern day. Now you go to the Catholic Church, you're going to have your bishops, your archbishops, your father, your priests, they're going to have a lot of titles. Those are the Sadducees, and they're just playing church. That's how come every time you turn around, you done caught one of them having a bunch of sexual escapades with little kids and stuff like that, because that's what they're really doing. You're going to find them in there persecuting the nuns and doing all kind of stuff. Back in the day, them nuns used to be the hoes for the priests. Yeah, look it up. Look it up. But now in modern time, the priests, they done got freaky and they messing with the babies and the kids. It's a sin and a shame. But that's what they're doing. But they're making money and have this pretext of a semblance of holiness on the outside, but they're not. They're full of mess. They're full of it. And we got it in our churches too. That man up there in Atlanta was the bishop, and found out that he's running around with all of the boys up in there, and he's married. He was on the down low and bringing that stuff back to his wife. And a lot of these women, they know that these men is doing this stuff, but they stay with them for the money. They stay with them for the prestige. Oh, that's the first lady of such and such. Nobody ever referred to people in the Old Testament as first ladies. Moses' wife was never called a first lady, but I'm not even mad at the title. But I'm just saying how things have changed and morphed into other stuff today that has turned into this big to-do. I even see now where the pastors will have the wife sit right next to them right there in the pulpit. And they'll have the wife up there and it's them two up there as if they're the king and queen of the church. That's what it looked like. It's a weird situation. I think we've went a little too far with what we want to do, playing church, instead of doing what God tell us to do. But let's continue here. And greetings in the marketplace, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. Now, what does the Messiah say in the next verse? But be not you called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all are your brethren. Stop. He say, don't do that. That's in the scriptures. This is The book of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 8. He say, don't do that. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your father, which is in heaven. Now, he's not talking about your earthly father, which is your dad. That's fine. You can call him daddy, father all day, Abba. But he's talking about calling other men a title of father, like in the Catholic faith. When they go up to a guy that's a priest and they say, Father so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. That's wrong. That's wrong. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. And we were forced in this country and many other places to call certain people master. And he says this is wrong. The whole rabbi thing, wrong. The whole father thing, wrong. The whole master thing, wrong. It's right here. It's not me. It's not my opinion. It's the opinion of the Messiah, who was sent by God to correct us to do things the right way, to get into reconciliation with the Father. At the end of the day, this is the Father's idea. And he doesn't want it. So all of you that are Catholic and run around calling these people Father, you're wrong. You want to find out who's wrong? It's real easy. The people that are doing these things. If you're running around calling people rabbi, you're wrong. If you're still running around calling people master, you got a problem. You have a problem with the Most High. It's the scripture. It's not me. It's the word. It's the word of God. Now, let's look at what's next here. He that is greatest among you shall be your servant. Now he's saying this is what he is preferring, that, you know, if you're going to do something, this is what you do. The greatest among you is going to serve. And remember, the Messiah had no problem serving his disciples, washing their feet, getting food ready for them, and all that kind of thing. He had no problem doing that. You, on the other hand, want to sit up like a Pharisee and a Sadducee and be served. You don't want to be the one. The Sadducee and the Pharisee don't want to lift a hand. They never going to be in the line feeding nobody. I was at a union function not long ago, and I'm the vice president of the local. So I'm second in command under the president. I served. I set up the stuff. I served the stuff. Now others did too, but I'm just saying, I was there serving. And I didn't have nothing to eat till everybody else had something to eat. Serving. And that's exactly what the Messiah requires of people that's in leadership. You are to show an example of, okay, if you're in charge, show us how to do what's right. And that's what we're supposed to do. And it should be in your heart to do so. It should be in your heart to do so. Now, let's go to the next thing. He says down here in verse 23, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. This is how he's describing them. He's saying, woe unto you. Woe, meaning y'all in trouble. And then he called them hypocrites. And you all know that a hypocrite is somebody that's saying they're doing one thing, but they're really doing something else. They lying. They're liars. You pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, and mercy. See, you have this look where you're giving your tithe, and you the one that's at the church always talking about, yeah, we need the stuff that fold, not the stuff that jingle, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, you so focused on getting that offering. And then you got today's time, you got a love offering, a touch offering, a come in here and see me offering, benevolent offering. You got 25 offerings in the same church service, and you are robbing and pillaging the people, and most of them poor. And that's the Pharisee. Because remember, the Pharisees are the ones that have the multiple churches out in the community. These are today's groups. All of these various churches all over the place. God did not institute that. God instituted one temple, one. Now we got churches on every block. They're all Pharisees, just like the Jew and the rabbi today. They're all Pharisees. That Baptist preacher, they're all Pharisees. They're all Pharisees. And it says that you don't do law and judgment and mercy. You just want the money. You blind guides which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and the platter, but within are full of extortion and excess. They be extorting and excess. They the ones with the Rolls Royce pulling up and they got the reserved parking space out there. They the ones with done fooled you into giving up your nest egg. They the ones did that. Extortion and excess. While the rest of the congregation, some of them got to walk to the church because they don't got a car. They don't got a way to get there. But boy, that pastor be on the phone with you talking about you ain't been here in a while. You about to lose your membership, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't got no money. Well, you got Cash App. You can send it to the Cash App. I mean, if it ain't one thing, it's another. Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, and the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitish sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and uncleanness. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of righteousness. Yeah, you build the tombs of the prophets after you done secretly killed them. You done secretly assassinated them and killed them. And then you want to have a funeral service for so-and-so and act like you loved them when you didn't. And this same Messiah that they killed by hanging, lynching, today, most of the Christians found their church on that one that they killed and hung up in a tree. And there's niggas that get killed and hung up in trees, pretty much. And that's what he was. That Messiah was a nigga too, and they hung him up. Yeah, I said it, and that's the truth. And only the truth will set you free. Now they build all of their stuff based off of that guy that they killed, and they swear that they were always cool with. That's like when they say they're cool with Martin Luther King. Well, if you were so cool with Dr. King, why did you kill him? The very people that killed Dr. King now use his name loosely all the time to check you and correct you and say you should do stuff like Dr. King. He wouldn't be appreciative of the way you acting right now. You should behave like him. What's wrong with you? He was one of the greatest men I ever knew. First of all, you ain't know him. Second of all, you never loved him. And third of all, it was your people that killed him because you despised him. Y'all called him public enemy number one. Y'all said he was the worst thing, the worst person in the United States of America. And y'all kept him under surveillance. Y'all hated the man. And then y'all killed him. Yeah. Now you turn around and act like he was your friend. You was never a friend to him while he was alive. Everywhere that he went was nothing but heartache and pain and fear and fright in the middle of the night. He lived a horror movie life. Everywhere he went, at his house, they tried to kill him. His family was always threatened with death. The phone calls never stopped. Or just a rough life. Yes, he was a beautiful man in the peace that he tried to walk in. And he tried to instill that same peace in his wife and in his children. But that they were scared the majority of their life. They were continuously threatened. This was no cakewalk for them because they were good people. Everywhere that man went, he was either beaten, threatened, arrested. He was arrested so many times it was ridiculous. Trumped up charges all of the time. Sometimes they would just go get him and say, we're going to arrest you. And you didn't do nothing. And we just going to protect you by putting you in the jail. We think that they can't get to you in the jail. Now, of course, the people can get to you in the jail. How many of our people have been put in the jail and then the white mob come in there and just take us up out of there? But there was nothing we could do because the police were running the show. So that's what he means by this. You make the sepulchers of the prophets. He wasn't saying that in a good way. He was snubbing them. The Messiah had a problem with these guys because he could see what they do. These was the killers, and they killed him. They killed him. They convinced the people to crucify and hang the Messiah. He had healed them, fed them, had a few of them even find money down in the fish, brought sight to the blind, hearing to the deaf, made the lame be able to walk straight, cast demons out of people, took away depression and all that kind of thing, took away the suicidal tendencies and the cutting of themselves and all that kind of stuff. And they wanted to kill him for that. He was basically giving out free health care and they wanted him gone. He didn't bother none of them with their stuff, with his stuff. If they wanted to do what they was doing, he never imposed on them. But they always wanted to impose on him. Unbelievable. He couldn't stand these scribes and Pharisees. Wherefore, be ye witnesses unto yourselves that you are the children of them which killed the prophets. Yeah, he said, I know exactly who you are. You the children of the prophet killers. And a lot of y'all are the children of the people that kill my people all the time. Fill ye up the measure of your fathers, you serpents and generation of vipers. How can you escape the damnation of hell? Ooh, he calling it, you ain't going nowhere. When it's time, you going to hell. With your phylacteries, your beautiful robes, your long prayers, your church service and all of that, you're going to hell. Because you've been doing it all wrong this whole time. All wrong. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them you shall kill and crucify, and some of them you shall scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city. You just trifling. That upon you may come all righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Berechiah, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Yeah, all of it's coming back. Y'all think that these people are going to get away with the criminal activities they've done? Oh, it's Judgment Day is coming. And yeah, a lot of them are dead, but they're going to be woken up, brought back to life, and then cast into the lake of fire and they will have an eternal suffering in that lake. Yep, no death, just suffering. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's going to be payback for what you've done. Yeah. And some of y'all say, oh, that's a cruel God. Whatever. You were cruel when you were alive. Now it's your turn to get some cruelty. That sounds like a just God to me. That's called justice. You were evil, and now evil going to get done to you. See, that's the problem. You evil people want to be forgiven. There ain't going to be no forgiving. No, you going to get it. You're going to get what you got. The stuff that you got out, that you gave out to people, is your turn to get it now. That's called justice. That's called fair. That word that y'all hate, because so many of us go to court and say, that's not fair. Y'all got evidence that this guy didn't do the crime. Let him out. No, we don't have to let him out. The state attorney have to bring it up. And if they bring it up, then we'll let him out. Well, being that y'all know this is the truth, why don't just the truth make you let him out? No, that's not enough. The state attorney have to bring it up. That's that scribes and Pharisees and lawyers stuff right there. Finding a way to get out of doing what's right and just do what they want to do. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent to thee. See, we kill the people that are sent to us, and we laugh at them and mock them. I'm telling people that they should go by the holy days. I'm telling people they should not eat the pork. They should not eat the crab boil and all of that. They say, man, please. What is you, some Muslim or something? And they say they're trying to be funny. No, I'm the same Hebrew like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Quit being a funny. Quit being a smart ass. But you're so busy with the jokes and y'all don't want to follow nothing what God say. And the funny thing is, in y'all not want to follow what he say, you hurt yourself with your health. You kill yourself health-wise. You're hurting yourself. You know, with your stubbornness. And then y'all say, oh, the spirit of cancer. It ain't no spirit. You eat it. You drink it. You breathe it. It's not a spirit. Cancer is something that you purposely ingest. So if you quit eating it, you won't have it. That's the one thing that ain't no spirit. Quit eating it. And most of y'all eat cancer. Y'all eat the pork, the crab, the shrimp, all the stuff you're not supposed to have, you eating it. Out there eating coon, squirrel, possum, and bringing all them diseases in. And you got our brothers overseas eating monkeys and carrying on and getting sick. Keep on eating this stuff, eating snakes. You know, what's wrong with y'all? Eating crocodile, gator. Oh, y'all love it. I know you love it. And you can go right on and have it with your sick tail. And you wonder what's wrong with you when you go to the doctor. But it's all right. You keep it up. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, you shall not see me henceforth till ye shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Yep, keep it up. You won't be seeing him either. Now we're going to go to Matthew 7 because we want to talk about why will Messiah say, depart from me? I never knew you, workers of iniquity. You know, the people say, Lord, Lord, didn't I do this? Didn't I do that? Let's go find that. Go down to verse 15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. They come to you in sheep's clothing. They come to you with them robes of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, looking all holy, looking all good. looking nice, over there at the temple, over there at the church house, and they don't mean you no good. They're ravening wolves on the inside. And you should be able to tell what they are by their fruits. But y'all too busy being mesmerized by the beautiful car and the beautiful outfit and the beautiful temple and all that kind of thing. And what does he say in the very next verse? You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. You're going to hell. By the fruits you'll know them. Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Once again, the Messiah is given deference over to the Father. Whatever my Father say, that's how we gonna roll. And if you're not doing what my Father say, it's a wrap. When I come back, I'm here on behalf of my daddy to wreck shop. And I'm coming straight to y'all. In the first place I'm coming, I showed y'all that in Ezekiel, I think it was chapter 9. The first place I'm coming is to the church. The first place I'm coming is to the church. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find that for y'all right quick. Let me see if I can find that Ezekiel 9. Let's see here. Yeah. Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 2. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth toward the north, and every man a weapon, a slaughter weapon in his hand. And one man among them was clothed with linen. He was white linen, and a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the altar. So you got these cats coming in with weapons, and then you got this one dude dressed in all white, and all he got is a notebook and a pen. What are they up to? Let's see what they up to. And the glory of God, the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherub whereupon he was to the threshold of the house, and he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So all of the people that don't like all of the trouble that's going on, the ones that wish things was better, the ones that are telling the truth that, this ain't right, this ain't just, this is illegal how they doing things, this is wrong. Those ones, I want you to go right on their forehead a mark. And the others, he said, to the others, he said, in my hearing, go you after him throughout the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have pity. Slay utterly young and old, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. And this is God's will. The first place he gonna start when he come back is the church. Every church. And if you got Christmas trees all up in there, and Halloween all up in there, and Valentine all up in there, you in trouble. And all of y'all that instituted it, you in trouble. You know it's wrong. You know you shouldn't be doing it. You're doing the stuff of the world because that makes you acceptable with them. But we were not supposed to follow the things of the peoples that we came to. We were supposed to stay following God. No, you want to fit in. You want to assimilate. You wanted to be just like the Borg, and you will be assimilated. We can't do that. That's what the French did to all of the people that they had in their colonies. They said, "Oh, all of y'all gonna be French too." Well, the niggas can't be French because y'all still gonna say they niggas. That's the problem. We'll speak French. We'll spend French money. We'll design the city after Paris, France. But because we still look like this, y'all not gonna ever really accept us. And that's just the truth. That's just the truth. So who should we be accepted by? God. Because he's the only one that's going to be fair with us. He's the only one that's going to be square with us. Now, let me get back to this where I was. So you had a brief description of the Messiah, what he's saying, about the people and that about the Pharisees and Sadducees. And now let's go to Matthew chapter 9, verse 10. And we're going to talk about the Pharisees and disciples of John asked the Messiah asked him some questions. And I want you to listen to the responses that the Messiah gave to them. So let's go over here to 9. Let's go down here to verse 10. And it came to pass as Jesus sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. Now, and the Pharisees saw it, and they said unto his disciples, why eat your master with publicans and sinners? So they this time they didn't ask the Messiah directly, but he heard them ask, why is your master doing this? He should separate from any of these people. Because remember, that's what the Pharisees did. They wouldn't eat with certain folk, and they'd be over here, and that would make them think that they was holy because they didn't deal with them. Now, today, do we got a group that does that? That's in our community? Yep. The apostolic and the Pentecostals. They don't want to be, and of course the Jehovah's Witness. They don't want to be around nobody else. Oh, we can't be with them. But you catch them with them later. Go over there when it's dark outside and see if they over there. Yeah, they over there. They right over there. They just do it under cover of darkness. They do the exact same thing that Pharisee did, named Nicodemus. And in the nighttime, they go slip over there. You remember Nicodemus? He used to slip out and go see the Messiah under cover of darkness. Now, in the daytime, you couldn't catch him over there because he's at the Sanhedrin meeting, talking mess, plotting and scheming. But at nighttime, when nobody could see, when he thought nobody could see, he would slip out and go see the Messiah and say, Father, Master, tell me, blah, blah, blah. Talk to me and teach me. And he wouldn't do it in the light, though. And see, you have to be willing to do these things in the light. You have to be willing to say, I'm not going to do the holidays. You have to be willing to say, I'm not going to eat the food that I'm not supposed to eat. You have to be willing to say, I'm going to worship on the Sabbath day. I'm going to honor it and keep it holy. I'm going to respect it. And a lot of us don't, we're afraid to do that. It's so serious, and it's really not as serious as it looked for society. It's serious with God, though. And if you're really worried about your appearance with the Father, you should do it. But if you're worried about your appearance with people, People are so fleeting. Today, one thing is a fad, and then the next day it's not. And they're not going to be so hard on you. I mean, they're going to make some jokes and tease you a little bit, but sticks and stones. Sticks and stones break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Let it go. They're going to tease you for a little while and then be done with it. Once they see that you really sticking to it, they leave it be, usually. But why would you be worrying about men and not worried about God? That's the problem. I'm far more worried about God than I'm worried about men. Now let's see. But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. Since y'all asking these questions to my disciples, let me go ahead and answer it for you. I'm with the ones that's sick. The ones that don't need any help, them ain't the ones I'm here for. So I ain't here for you because you don't even want no help. But go you and learn what that means. So in other words, the Messiah got smart with him. He said, now go learn what that means. Because I know you guys got to go back to your little Sanhedrin council and have a meeting about it and get the scribes and the lawyers and try to debate what did I just say. Because that's all y'all good for, is debating, going back and forth and not coming up with an answer. Now, I didn't just gave you the answer. It's concrete. I'm here. I'm with the sinners and the publicans because I'm trying to straighten them out. The ones that don't need, that say that they're not sick, I don't fool with them. You ain't seen me come to none of y'all house. Now, I done came to the sinner and the publican house. I came here. They invited me and I came. I've not been invited to none of y'all houses. No Sadducee or Pharisee or scribe or lawyer invited me to come to y'all house. But when one finally did, and we'll see that, watch the outcome. Watch the outcome. But let's finish this. Then came to him disciples of John saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but thy disciples don't? So the disciples of John are good people. We're all on the same side there. But the disciples of John have put themselves in line, in league with the Pharisees in appearances about fasting. Now let's see what the Messiah's answer is. And Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then they shall fast. Don't worry, we all gonna be on the same page later. They're not on that page with y'all right now because I'm standing here. I'm the one that was sent. So now that they know that I'm the one that was sent, right now they're going to eat, and I'm actually going to be the one to fix dinner for them. I'm going to feed them, and I'm trying to feed you too. I'm going to give you the bread of heaven. I'm going to give you the word of God, which is the food and the drink that you need to live the eternal life. That's what the Messiah is saying. So as long as I'm with them, they don't have to fast right now. Now, if I need them to sit back and pray or whatever, I'll tell them to do that. And remember, there was times where the Messiah said, I want y'all to go over there and pray. Remember when he was on the mount and the people were getting ready to come and get him to take him away to the jail. He was telling them to go pray, but they fell asleep. They prayed a little while and then went to sleep. But at the time, he said, I'm taking care of them, so they don't need to do that right now. But when I'm gone, both of y'all are going to be on the same page. Y'all are going to be doing it together then. So he answered the disciples of John with tenderness and cooperation. But he did not answer them Pharisees with that same thing. He was a smart aleck with them. And he let them know, go back and study that. Go figure out what that means. Because you don't know. Y'all just full of it. I love it. Now let's go to Luke 7 and 30. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. And what we're getting ready to find out here is about this lawyer asking some questions. But the Pharisees and lawyers rejected the counsel of God against themselves, being not baptized of him. And the Lord said, whereunto then shall I liken the men of this generation, and what are they like? So he's going to talk bad about them again. He's going to talk bad about them again. But these lawyers wouldn't do anything. But what did the people do? And all the people that heard him and the publicans justified God, being baptized with the baptism of John. So when the Messiah was out there talking about John and talking about the things of God, the people heard him and the publicans, and they changed their mind and got baptized. And they made a profession to follow God. The Pharisees and the lawyers, on the other hand, rejected the counsel of God. The church leaders rejected God, but they're the church leaders. Do you see that? This is Luke 7, verse 29 and 30. The church leaders. You got a church. It has a sign outside that might say House of God, Church of God, Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, Jehovah Witness, Kingdom Hall, St. Matthew Baptist Church, and I'm St. Luke Baptist Church, and I'm reading out the book of Luke right now. It might say Holy Mother of God Catholic Church, Archdiocese, all of this. So it's got a sign that says, we service the people of God. We do the things of God in here. But the church leaders here having nothing to do with it. So are some of y'all going to a church that has that, but they actually don't have anything really to do with God? Ask that question to yourself. Because when you read these scriptures and they're telling you that you should be doing certain things, and if you don't, the penalty is death. You do know that the penalty of continuously eating the pork and the crab boil is death. Separation and death. Yeah. It's serious to God. It might not be serious to you. You might just say, oh man, it's just some crab legs. Yeah, okay. Go on and keep eating them. But I've showed you before how God looks at it and the punishment that's going to be put when he returns. I've showed it to you in Isaiah 65 and Isaiah 66. He looks at it as complete evil, hiding behind the trees, eating swine's flesh. Keep it up. Keep it up. Go get you some more pork chops. Go get you some more ham cutlets. Go on and get it. Go get you some more pig's feet. Go get you some coon. Now, some of y'all was in the military and had to follow orders in the military. And whatever that order was, no matter how stupid it was, you obeyed it. Now, God is telling you to obey something and you are totally going against it. So what do you think going to happen to you when he returns? What do you think? What do you think going to happen? And when I was in the military, they do an inspection. What do you think going to happen if the Messiah came right now, sent an angel down here to go and inspect your refrigerator? What you got in there? You got you some ham. You got you some pork chops. You got you some pig's feet. pig ears, snout. You got chitlins, pig intestines that they had to clean the doo-doo out. You know, it's unbelievable the things that we have come to find tasty. Our people are eating pig intestines where the doo-doo come out. And they say, well, I'll just clean it off. Now, some of them don't clean it. And that's how come when they cook it, it smells so bad in the house. And they've got over it and they eat it. And y'all wonder why y'all sick. Y'all wonder where cancer come from. And y'all keep calling cancer a spirit. It's not a spirit. You're eating pig intestines where the doo-doo traveled through. What's the usual penalty health-wise for eating feces? Let's look that up right quick. Shigella, Vibrio, Salmonella, E. coli are 4 bacteria commonly present in fecal matter. These bacteria, along with parasites like amoebas and Giardia, can cause severe diarrhea, abdominal pain, cramping, bloody stool, fever, nausea, vomiting. You'll end up with viruses, bacteria, parasites, hepatitis. And of course, you can die. It'll kill you. You can't do stuff like that and think you're gonna be okay. You can't have things like that and think you're gonna be okay. It doesn't even make logical sense. Something you expelling out of your body and you think you need to eat it. It's the waste product of your body. And you think you need to eat that? The doctor tells you that when you sneeze and have phlegm and cough and expel that, to not swallow it, to get rid of it, to expel it, the mucus. If mucus is bad, what do you think feces will do for you? Doo-doo. And we have come to just have all of that. It doesn't make sense. But as you see, these people, but the Pharisees and lawyers rejected the counsel of God against themselves, being not baptized of him. And they sit in Moses' seat. These are the very people dressed, sitting in a seat, got a sign on them, say that that's what they do. And yet they don't follow any of the stuff that Moses followed. They don't follow nothing what God say. They do the traditions of men. Now let's go to Luke chapter 10. Verse 25. Now let's see the questions that the lawyer had specifically for the Messiah. And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, What shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said unto him, What is written in the law? How readest thou? Now that's an interesting thing. The lawyer asked the Messiah, What do I do to get into in eternal life? The Messiah said, Go to the book, and what does the law say? Follow the law. When is the last time a preacher told you to follow the law? Most of them say that foolishness that all of the law got nailed up on the cross and you don't have to follow that anymore. But what did it just say right there? Those words, a lot of these preachers are Pharisees, Sadducees, lawyers, and scribes. They're not following any of the actual stuff that the scriptures talk about. They're doing their own thing. And they're leading you to hell. And he answering said, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And he said unto him, Thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live. And he, but he willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, And who is my neighbor? Because remember, the Pharisees separated themselves, right? So they didn't want everybody to be their neighbor. So then the Messiah give them an example. So here's the point of me even bringing this up. The lawyer is questioning the Messiah and wants to have this little personal Bible study with him so he could justify himself and not follow anything with what the scripture is going to say. He's just trying to justify himself. And are you sure that your pastor's not just justifying himself? Are you sure you're not justifying yourself when you say the Merry Christmas and you're getting all of this stuff and you know this is not in the scriptures? Are you just justifying yourself and saying, well, I don't have to do things on the Sabbath day. I can do it on a Sunday or any day of the week. I don't have to do it on the day that's instituted. Are you justifying yourself? Sounds like that's exactly what you're doing. But let's see what the Messiah's answer is going to be. A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, and which stripped him of his raiment, wounded him, departed, and leaving him half dead. And by chance, there came a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Now remember, the priests were the Sadducees. And so the Sadducee priests kept going. Today's time would be the Catholic priest, kept going. And likewise, a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him and passed by on the other side. Now that would be the Pharisee. Came by, completely saw the situation and just kept on going. Because remember, they're going to be separated. And he probably felt like, well, if this guy got beat up, he deserved it. So I'm just going to leave it be. Yeah, but you don't know that. You're not going to try to help him, even though you have no idea what the situation was. Just ruthless. And he passed by. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. He picked him up, took him to a place, paid for the room, told the guy, give him whatever you want, and when I come back through, because I'm going to be coming back through, I'll pay the bill. Put it on me. Now, who is the neighbor? Because remember, we had separated from the Samaritans because the Samaritans decided to be away from us. They wanted to do their own thing and worship and make their own temple and all of that. This was during the time of Solomon. When we split, and you had northern Israel and then you had southern Judah. And this Samaritan, on the other hand, who typically doesn't have anything to do with us, when he saw that situation, he acted and he did the right thing. That was the neighbor. the one that's not even saying that they're supposed to be around him, he got involved in it. He helped save the day. And you, being a lawyer, would do nothing. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But now you have an idea how the Messiah felt about the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the lawyers and the scribes, and why he felt that way. What was his contention with them? What was their contention with him? I've explained a whole bunch of things there. And you guys have the scripture locations in the comment section where you can look up everything that I just went over. So you don't have to try to remember it. Just pull it up in the comments and you'll be able to see it. All right. So I will see y'all next time. And let's hope that you don't have a pastor that is a scribe or a Pharisee or a Sadducee or a lawyer. But a lot of y'all do. And they're going to lead you right to hell. Anyway, I'm going to talk to y'all next time. Goodbye.